Hello everyone, my name is Yasser Sarag and I'll be presenting alongside my colleague Ahmad Harash our thesis 1 topic, integration of magnetic treatment and ultrafiltration using a gravity-driven membrane for water supply in scattered rural communities, which was done at the American University in Cairo between September and December 2020 and was supervised by Dr. Ahmed Al-Gindi. For scattered communities, there is a lack of drinkable water, despite having water sources such as rivers and canals. The cost per capita of constructing a water supply system is generally higher in rural areas than in urban areas due to a smaller population which is scattered over a large area. This, in turn, leads to high operating costs to be recovered by fewer users. Ultrafiltration is a water purification process in which water is forced through a semi-permeable membrane, removing suspended solids and high molecular weight solutes. Ultrafiltration membrane's molecular weight cutoff is the molecular weight of the molecule that is 90% retained by the membrane. It is measured in Dalton, which is defined as 1/12 of the mass of an unbound neutral atom of carbon-12. However, over time, fouling occurs, which is the deposition of particles on the membrane's external surface or in its pore openings or within its pores. Therefore, the flow decreases over time, while increasing the filtering process as fouling decreases the size of the pores that the water goes through. Hassan et al. 2015 have studied the effect of magnetism on water for agricultural use and have concluded that the contact angle of water decreases by around 26%. Also, Carloso et al. 2015 studied the effect of having a magnetic field on a pressurized ultrafiltration system and have shown promising results in fouling reduction, which is believed to be due to the decrease in contact angle. This diagram summarizes the methodology we followed, in which two membrane types were used with molecular weight cutoff of 150 kilodalton and 50 kilodalton. Both membranes were supplied by engineer Amr al-Maligi. For each membrane, 3 water sources were used: Nile River midstream, Zagazig Canal, and Nile River endstream. Here is a picture of our setup, which is composed of 2 L-shaped pipes. One is the control setup and the other is the magnetized setup. 6 neodymium magnets were used, supplied by Dr. Karim Addas of the physics department, each with a magnetic strength of around 5,000 Gaussian units. The magnets were placed in an acrylic frame right before the membrane, with the north pointing towards the outflow. A dosing pump and overflow valves were used to maintain the pressure head at 1.35 meters. The volume of filtered water was then measured every hour for a total of 8 hours per run. It is also worth noting that both setups were run simultaneously with water being supplied from the same source. Our main goal was to provide a water source that falls within the Egyptian standards for drinking water quality, which are shown in the table above. Now my colleague Ahmed Harash will carry on with the presentation.
As it was mentioned before, we will be using two types of membranes with different molecular cutoff weights. The first is the 50 kilodalton membrane from cyanide filtration, and the second is the 150 kilodalton membrane from Mycodin nadia. Both membranes were obtained and provided by engineer Amri Miliki. Throughout our investigations, we needed to monitor the raw water quality, so we took two samples. One was at the start of each test run, and the other were at the end of each test run. Then we took the average of both samples qualities in order to account for any contamination that could have occurred due to the setup itself. This is the results for the raw water quality using the Nile water at midstream and the 150 kilodalton membrane. And we can see that there is a change can be observed in the water quality before and after the test. And the same manner and methodology were applied in the rest of the test runs. This is our first run using the 150 kilodalton membrane with the Nile water at midstream. And as you can see, we obtained a sample at each hour for a total of 8 samples. And as you can see, the results show that the magnetized setup have a higher flow rate of 16% more than the control setup. And the magnetized setup also showed to have better stabilized flow and also better water qualities at some areas like the turbidity, which is a really important water quality parameter. And these are the different results for the same test runs conducted using different water sources and different membranes combinations. As you can see here, this is one of our membranes used in the magnetized setup for one of our test runs. And this is one used for the control setup. And as you can see, there is a difference between both of them. The magnetized setup membrane is much cleaner, which can show that it can have a higher average lifetime. However, overall, all the test runs passed the Egyptian quality standards, and that the magnetized setups all showed to be more effective with the 150 kilodalton membranes. The results also showed that the magnetic field was more effective on the second source water, and also the magnetic field showed to provide higher stabilized flow while using the first source water, which will give higher volumes of water throughout longer periods of time. For the practicality of the setup, the magnetic field setups showed to have an average stabilized flow of 0.1 liter per hour, which can generate around 2.4 liters per day. However, the average water consumption for drinking and cooking purposes is 15 liters per capita per day, which means that for each capita we will need to provide multiple setups in order to cover the consumption. Also, as we said before, all the setups showed to provide water quality suitable for drinking purposes, and the magnetized setups showed to have an average lifetime of 1 year, which means that the setup will need to be maintained once a year. So in conclusion, the magnetized setup was effective, and the magnetized ultrafiltration showed promising results. However, the setup should be redesigned and optimized to increase the stabilized flow in order to cover higher average demands of water, so that the setup becomes more practical.